everyone, and welcome. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui, coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Sunday, February 14, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Melissa Allen in Lakeland, Florida, reports about the COVID-19 economic relief bill as unemployment rate soars. Thomas Leiknes in Edmonton, Alberta.
Two dreaded words have been uttered in Canada. Third wave.
Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot in Washington, D.C.
The District of Columbia announces a second round of citywide PPE care package distribution for local businesses.
Philip Toledo in Atlanta, Georgia.
Georgia to pay bonus to state employees.
Bureau Chief Ace Ramirez in Gaithersburg reports about the General Assembly passing the Maryland $1 billion COVID Relief Act. Next, we have Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
New vaccine orders to ensure that Pennsylvanians are vaccinated as quickly as possible.
Lori Jarvina in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nevada Health Response announces roadmap to recovery update.
Jane Rojal in Houston reports about the Texas under a winter storm warning as Governor Abbott issues a disaster declaration. And 6 killed in 133 car pileup in North Fort Worth. Plus, for tonight's roundtable, in-person learning experiences that taught us life lessons. Our coverage begins now. Donald Trump was acquitted Saturday on charges of inciting an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol after a majority of Senate Republicans closed ranks and refused to punish the former president in his historic second impeachment trial. The 5-day trial saw Democratic prosecutors argue, bolstered by dramatic video of the January 6 riot, that Trump betrayed his oath by whipping up his supporters into storming Congress in a last-ditch attempt to cling to power. It concluded as expected with a majority of Republicans declaring him not guilty. In a sign of the powerful grip the 74-year-old Trump continues to exert on his party. But while the 57-43 majority that voted to convict fell short of the two-thirds needed in the Senate, 7 Republicans joined with Democrats to seek Trump's conviction, making it the most bipartisan impeachment trial in U.S. history. Top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell delivered a scathing criticism of Donald Trump on Saturday, despite voting to acquit the former president on an impeachment charge, saying he was responsible for the January 6 assault on the U.S. Capitol.
There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it.
McConnell called Trump's actions leading up to the siege a disgraceful dereliction of duty. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says after Donald Trump was acquitted in his historic second impeachment trial, what was seen in the Senate was a cowardly group of Republicans. Take a look.
But what we saw in that Senate today was a cowardly group of Republicans who apparently have no options because they were afraid to defend their job, respect the institution in which they served. What is so important about the political survival of any one of us that is more important than our Constitution that we take an oath to protect and defend?
Lead impeachment manager Jamie Raskin says in a press conference with Democratic managers, no amount of facts would have made any difference to them.
Is that no number of witnesses demonstrating that Donald Trump continued to incite the insurrectionists even after the invasion of the Capitol would convince them. They wouldn't be convinced. They were hinging it on a matter of law, which we thought we had settled back on Tuesday, of course, when the Senate elected to exercise jurisdiction and to reject that jurisdictional constitutional argument.
Meanwhile, after former President Donald Trump was acquitted in his second impeachment trial by the Senate, attorney Michael Van Der Veen tells reporters of their victory. Take a look.
voting to convict. It's more than last time. Is that what you expected? How do you feel about that number from the former president's own party voting to convict him?
A win is a win.
I'm going to go ahead.
I don't grapple with anybody. We finished the grappling in that room and we slammed them down on the mat and won this case. There's no grappling anymore. We won, not guilty.
Did you try and get Kevin Mcconnell?
U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says Donald Trump will be convicted in the court of public opinions and deserves to be permanently discredited. Take a look.
Despite the results of the vote on Donald Trump's conviction in the court of impeachment, he deserves to be convicted, and I believe he will be convicted in the court of public opinion. He deserves to be permanently discredited, and I believe he has been discredited in the eyes of the American people and in the judgment of history. And if Donald Trump ever stands for public office again, and after everything we have seen this week, I hope, I pray, and I believe that he will meet the unambiguous rejection by the American people. We heard the roundly debunked jurisdictional argument that the Senate cannot try a former official, a position that would mean that any president could simply resign to avoid accountability for an impeachable offense, a position which in effect would render the Senate powerless to ever enforce the disqualification clause in the Constitution. Essentially, the President's counsel told the Senate that the Constitution was unconstitutional.
And now an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday, February 14, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 108,727,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases: U.S., more than 27.6 million, followed by India with more than 10.9 million, and Brazil with more than 9.8 million. Sadly, this virus has now already claimed more than 2,397,000 lives worldwide. Top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are U.S. with more than 485,000, Brazil more than 238,000, and Mexico more than 173,000. Now for COVID news, President Joe Biden said Thursday the U.S. had signed deals to acquire 200 million more COVID-19 vaccine doses as officials look to immunize the vast majority of the population by July. The deals with Pfizer and Moderna, which the administration had announced it was seeking last month, increased the country's total vaccine supply by 50% to 600 million doses.
Afternoon, we signed the final contracts for 100 million more Moderna and 100 million more Pfizer vaccines. We're also able to move up the delivery dates with an additional 200 million vaccines to the end of July, faster than we expected. When I took office just 3 weeks ago, this country did not have a plan or enough vaccines or people to vaccinate Americans. All Americans, any time, at any point in 2021. Within 3 weeks, round-the-clock work with so many people standing behind me and in front of me, we've now purchased enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all Americans. And now we're working to get those vaccines into the arms of millions of people. Just this afternoon,
the U.S. immunization campaign got off to a shaky start in December, but has since improved. 46.4 million shots have now reached arms, and at least 34.7 million people have received one or more doses, roughly 10% of the population. The vaccine drive entered a new phase Thursday as 6,500 pharmacies began scheduling shots, but at a wave of optimism brought about by falling cases could soon be tested by dangerous variants. 1 million doses were being shipped to drugstores and supermarket pharmacies nationwide, with chains announcing they would begin administering the first shots Friday. The pharmacy program will eventually expand to 40,000 outlets, while the federal government has also used emergency legislation to ramp up vaccine production, opened mass vaccine sites in stadiums, and has begun a separate program to reach underserved communities. While the shots are currently only available to adults, officials have voiced hope that ongoing studies would allow them to be approved for children in the coming months. President Biden and Vice President Harris meet with state governors and mayors in the Oval Office of the White House to discuss the American Rescue Plan, a COVID-19 emergency legislative package. Biden tells reporters he is not making a political statement. It's just taken a while to adjust. They've been left on their own in many cases. Correspondent Melissa Allen tells us about the much-anticipated COVID-19 economic relief bill as the nation's unemployment rate soars. Take a look.
Just 2 days after his inauguration, President Joe Biden issued an executive order to provide immediate economic relief for families and businesses throughout the nation. The United States House Committee on Ways and Means has been working on relief proposals that would comprise half of the $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package as one of the key components of President Biden's proposed American Rescue Plan. The chairman of the committee, Richard E. Neal, said, quote, "Our nation is struggling, the virus is still not contained, and the American people are counting on Congress to meet this moment with bold, immediate action," end quote. According to the most recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. unemployment rate is 6.3%, with the number of unemployed persons in the nation at 10.1 million. Pre-pandemic levels a year ago in February of 2020 were significantly lower, with the rate at 3.5% and 5.7 million unemployed. The third round of stimulus checks would be a refundable tax credit of $1,400 for single taxpayers and $2,800 for joint filers. There would also be an additional $1,400 credit per dependent. The tax credit would start phasing out in an adjusted gross income of $75,000 for single filers, $112,500 for head of household filers, and $150,000 for joint filers. The proposed bill also includes other measures such as the increase and extension of federal unemployment benefits, a child tax credit, an enhancement of the Earned Income Tax Credit for workers without children, and an increase in the Affordable Care Act's premium tax credits for low to middle income families. Congress will use the budget reconciliation process to expedite the passage of the coronavirus relief bill so that only a simple majority or 51 Senate votes would be required rather than the typical 60 votes. The bill is expected to be ready for a floor vote sometime before month's end. In Lakeland, Florida, Melissa Allen, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Melissa, for that report. Up next, reports from Edmonton, Alberta, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, Georgia. Eagle News America continues.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net 25.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
This is Princess Velasco. Enjoy your weekend with letters and music. Mag-sound trip and chill every Saturday.
innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Impormasyong mahalaga sa taong bayan. Patas na pagbabalita. Papakinggan ang magkabilang panig. Lilinawin ang mga issue at kaagad na ihahatid ng objektibo. Mata ng Agila. Dumadagit ng pinakasariwang pangyayari, hindi lamang sa loob ng bansa, kundi sa iba't ibang panig ng daigdig. Mula sa Eagle News Teams at sa tulong ng makabagong teknolohiya, tiyak na makakalap kaagad ang katotohanan. Para sa mas matalas, malinaw at malalimang pagbabalita, ito ang mas pinatalas na Mata ng Agila. Inihahatid ng veteranong broadcast journalist na si Eli Saludar. Kasama si Binibining Pilipinas Intercontinental 2019, Emma Tiglao. At pinangungunahan ng batikang mamamahayag ng bansa, Vic De Leon Lima. Mata ng Agila, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 6 hanggang alas 8 ng gabi, dito sa Net 25.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. Health officials in Canada warn of a third wave of COVID-19 caused by the variants and plead for extra vigilance in the fight against it. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness is with us tonight with the details. Thomas?
Thank you, Anna. Well, that's definitely something we did not want to hear from our health officials. You know, Canada's top doctor, her name's Dr. Theresa Tam. She heads up the Public Health Service. Dr. Tam is warning about a third wave of the coronavirus, and she says this one will be led by variants of the original virus. Now, variants have been identified in all of Canada's 10 provinces, and in many, there's evidence of community spread of them. Before, it was just a matter of, all right, the outbreak was linked to somebody who had been to another country where that variant originated. Now it's starting to spread through the community, and that's where people are becoming alarmed. Tam is calling for extra vigilance. She says now is not the time to ease up on restrictions, and she's not alone in ringing the warning bells. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says, yeah, we've made some progress. He says, yes, case numbers are dropping, but
You're probably watching the news these days attentively, as everyone is, and watching the positive sign of the cases going down across the country. That is a good step in the right direction. But we also know at the same time the new variants that are more communicable, more easily transmitted, are increasingly out there. So we need to stay careful. Nobody wants a third wave to start, particularly not one comprised of new, more communicable variants that can cause real challenges.
So this warning from the Prime Minister Trudeau says danger still lurks.
I think everyone understands that we need to be extra vigilant as we enter this phase of potential spread of these new variants. That's why things like contact tracing, rapid testing, the app, and continued careful choices by all Canadians not to gather and to keep distances are our best chance of getting through, in the best case possible, best way possible, to the mass vaccinations that are coming in the coming months.
Now, in our far most eastern province, the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, it's an island-like province. They were supposed to have an election on Saturday, but in-person voting was suspended because of an outbreak. Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, the province's chief medical officer of health, is blaming the spike in new cases on a variant of the virus.
The 117 variant that was first recognized in the UK is the COVID strain responsible for this outbreak in our province. We know that this variant spreads faster and easier. It is estimated to be 70% more transmissible than the original COVID strain, which explains the rapid explosion of cases this week.
Fitzgerald says there's a lot of unknowns about the variant.
Unknown is whether the variant strain causes more or less severe illness than the original strain. And while the vast majority of cases in our province have been mild or even had no symptoms, this could be because most of the affected individuals are young. Our greatest concern is how this variant could impact seniors, particularly those in congregate living facilities.
Also concerned is the Chief Medical Officer of Health for British Columbia. Dr. Bonnie Henry worries the variants may spread from neighboring Alberta, where more than 100 cases have been reported.
Not only from Alberta, from Ontario, there's a considerably higher rate in some areas of Ontario as well, and we know that there's still travel back and forth. It comes back to, the fundamental thing that we know about this virus. It's transmitted between people, and when we inadvertently or not, when we travel, we take the risk that we have with us, and we pick up the risk from where we're going and bring it home with us.
Prevention right now is our only weapon in the battle against the pandemic until enough of us are immunized. But what about the future? How often will we have to be immunized? No definitive answer on that yet, but Dr. Henry thinks COVID may be with us for a long time.
I think the way this virus has been shown to change, the mutations are slower than what we see with influenza and some of the other respiratory viruses. I think there's a growing sense from most of us that we're going to see it as a recurring respiratory virus in the respiratory season, so fall and winter for us over the coming years. But whether we have enough immunity that it's not going to cause these explosive outbreaks and lead to hospitalization and overwhelming of healthcare systems, as we've seen in this past year. We hope that that's not going to happen, that things will settle down as immunity increases. And it may change to become a more benign respiratory virus like we've seen with some of the other coronaviruses over the years.
Not what we really wanted to hear, was it? But, we'll adapt. And while we do that, I wish you all good health. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Thomas, for that report. Very concerning indeed to hear about a possible third wave. And like you mentioned, that's not what, what any one of us would want to hear, right? What's been the response from the public with all these warnings from these health officials, as well as Justin Trudeau?
Again, people are kind of split. You've got those suffering from a great deal of COVID fatigue that just wants to get on with life, but you got about half the population who are actually lobbying the government and saying, no, let's not put our foot on the brake. Let's keep the restrictions for now. They look to countries like Australia and New Zealand. You get a half a dozen cases, they lock down a city there, and they're saying maybe we should be aiming for 0 cases in Canada. I don't know how realistic that would be, but definitely there's a large segment of the public that certainly supports more lockdown.
Yes, Thomas, you mentioned, I mean, it seems that new variants of the virus have become quite a concern in Europe, and they acted pretty quickly.
Well,
right?
The variants are, that's what's been driving the new outbreaks in Europe, particularly in England. Of course, that's where the UK variant originated. But I was just reading today that hospitals in France have been told to move into the crisis mode because of a possible surge in coronavirus cases caused by variants. In the United Kingdom, this is really disturbing. Health officials have identified 2 more new variants. And it was a variant that was responsible for the first wave of outbreaks that swept through the UK, if you recall. Other parts of Europe have similar concerns. The World Health Organization last week, again, warning that new variants pose a threat. We're still not sure how effective the vaccines will be or whether the virus has managed to outwit those inoculants. So, this is far from over.
Yes, absolutely, Thomas. Hopefully the warnings, will resonate with the public and just, as you mentioned, prevention. Prevention is key. You mentioned France. I mean, I read that too. They're seeing 25% of new cases are from that UK variant. And then in Toronto, I read about one case of the one from Brazil, the Brazil variant. They have identified there.
In that same province where Toronto is, the province of Ontario, the Nigerian variant has popped up there. They've actually got 4 different variants in Ontario, and they were dealing and are still dealing with a fairly large outbreak from the original virus. So it's a real mess there, Anna.
Well, Thomas, continue to be safe. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure to have you on. And like I said, stay safe.
You too, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you. Local businesses in D.C. are to receive a second round of PPE care packages as the district's gesture of support for its local shops and to protect their employees and their customers. In Washington, D.C., Eliza Gonzalez-Monglik-Mont is with us tonight. Eliza?
Good Sunday evening to you, Anna, and a good Monday morning to our friends on the other side of the globe. Support local businesses. We have all been encouraged to do it before, more so during this pandemic. The District of Columbia has taken further steps to do just that. Partnering with other organizations, the government of D.C. will do a second round of citywide personal protective equipment care packages distribution to businesses in Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser said these PPE care packages are one more way to support local businesses and protect their employees as they continue to serve D.C. residents. $1.7 million worth of essential supplies. That's the amount the Bowser administration is investing in the second round of PPE care package distribution. Now, included in the care packages are masks, hand sanitizers, disinfectant and sanitizing wipes, hand towels, and surgical gowns. Deputy Mayor John Falchicchio said DC's hope is that the personal protection equipment will remove a burden as the district moves closer to the other side of this pandemic. Now, Department of Small and Local Business Development, or DSLBD Director Christy C. Whitfield, said that by providing these much-needed PPE supplies to district businesses, it continues to support the local business community as they pivot, survive, and thrive. Aside from the second round of PPE distribution, Mayor Bowser also announced the launch of the $5.185 million DC Local Equity Access and Preservation Funds, or the DC LEAF program. Now, what is this? DC LEAF aims to strengthen neighborhoods, expand and diversify the local economy, and provide residents with pathways to the middle class. The program tries to achieve these goals in 3 ways. First, the Neighborhood Prosperity Fund. These grants provide necessary gap funding for the commercial component of development projects that help create job opportunities. Second, the Nourish DC Fund. This fund seeks to promote an equitable recovery by investing in local food businesses, particularly Black and Latino-owned businesses that otherwise struggle to access capital, and to increase access to healthy food to promote health equity in the district. And lastly, the Locally Made Grant. This grant supports businesses in certain corridors of the city and engage in light manufacturing with funding for capital or tenant improvements of commercial property with a designated industrial use. For more information, visit dmped.dc.gov. Now for some weather update, it's 37 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Eliza, for some good news there in your part of the world. How can local businesses avail of these services, especially the free PPEs?
Anna, the first step is to complete the PPE sign-up form. The business owner will then receive confirmation and instructions for picking up the PPEs. Delivery, unfortunately, is not available. They then need to bring their own box to carry the supplies from the distribution sites. For this round of PPE distribution, Anna, there are 2 distribution sites in the district: Anacostia at Maple View Flats and the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. The distribution will take place this Thursday, February 18th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and on Friday, February 19 from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturday, February 20 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The PPE care packages are being provided by the district government and are offered on a first-come, first-served basis. To learn more, visit coronavirus.dc.gov/phase2. Anna?
Thank you, Eliza. Well, hopefully many businesses will take advantage of that great opportunity, even though they have to go out and get it, right? I mean, they little sacrifice for what they're going to get.
It's free.
Thank you, Eliza. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Be safe out there.
You too, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. Still to come, stories from Gaithersburg, Maryland, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Las Vegas, Nevada, Houston, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. This is Eagle News America.
In good shape. Isn't that how we'd all like to be? But how can you be truly fit? And how can you stay truly healthy right up into your golden years? And truly have fun while doing it.
In good shape.
Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming diling kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, kumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
Kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19
ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo
sa black propaganda
at maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Omelda,
Luigian Alfartosa,
Tyranel Pililu,
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC,
Japan Bureau. We live in interesting times.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui in Las Vegas. 57,000 state employees in Georgia are expected to receive a $1,000 bonus this year. In Atlanta, Bureau Chief Philip Toledo reports. Philip?
Thanks, Anna. As workers across America have faced a myriad of challenges due to the pandemic that began almost a year ago, we've seen some private companies opting to thank their employees through some form of cash bonus. Just as an example, we saw several grocery store chains within the last few months give something to their frontline employees. Now, state employees here in Georgia may have a reason to celebrate. Last week, Governor Brian Kemp and other government leaders had a press conference to announce an amended 2021 budget that includes a $1,000 bonus for state employees. Take a look.
Our state employees have worked incredibly hard despite a global pandemic. They have been going above and beyond the call of duty to deliver essential services to our most vulnerable, keeping our businesses open, and deliver financial assistance to those who, quite honestly, many days were losing hope. And like so many hardworking Georgians, they juggled jobs and school and the new normal for their kids and their families, like we all have. And to those of us here today, we just simply cannot thank you enough. With the $1,000 supplement for state employees who, as the speaker mentioned, make less than $80,000 a year, I believe we're doing our part as state leaders to say thank you for all that you have done and to prioritize the people who make it possible for Georgia to be the top state in the country for business and who have done the hard work to ensure that our best and brightest days are still to come.
Now, as you heard there, this bonus payment will go to almost 57,000 state employees making less than $80,000 per year. Now, in case you're wondering who is a state employee, some examples might be your public health officials, state troopers, or the state's version of Child Protective Services. Now, the governor closed his remarks thanking again state workers and then encouraged Georgians to keep planting.
And there's no doubt that we as a state have been through more in this past year than we could have ever imagined. But I believe together we have all risen to that challenge, and I'm thankful for those individuals that are a part of this great team. And we have worked alongside one another to weather this storm, and we will continue to do that. And as I mentioned in the State of the State, Georgia is rich with good soil, but we have to keep planting. And that is what we are doing here today. This is an important step, but we have to continue to work to invest in our future and securing the promise for Georgians of future generations.
Now, Anna, before we go, I just want to give a quick update on our COVID-19 statistics. Right now, we're sitting at just a little under 800,000 confirmed cases here in Georgia, with over 50,000 hospitalizations and almost 14,000 deaths to date. Our 7-day average of positivity percentage is around 10%, and total new cases is continuing a downward trend, which is something we're all hopeful about. As state officials work to distribute vaccines to the Phase 1A plus population, close to 1.5 million, almost 3/4 of what has been shipped to the state, has already been administered. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Philip, for that report. That's great. $1,000 bonus. I can't remember ever getting that much of a bonus. Are you going to be one of those employees, Philip?
Unfortunately, Anna, particularly for my spring planting, I know the governor was talking about, planting there. No, I need to fix up my front yard. I'm not a state employee. I'm in the private sector, so it won't be coming to my household. However, there are a lot of state workers out there, like I mentioned, state troopers, even, the people that help with, filing the state unemployment. A lot of people who have had to work really hard over the last several months will be getting something a little extra.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's going to go a long way and well-deserved for all of them. And great to hear also that your COVID statistics are also in the downward trend there in Georgia. How are you adjusting, or are you still keeping with all the, your usual prevention safety measures, or are you Are you venturing out more?
It's a mixture of both. Fortunately or unfortunately, I should have some antibodies since I actually had it, but we haven't confirmed that anyone else in my household has. So we are definitely being very careful, and it's interesting because tomorrow is President's Day here in the U.S., and typically that's the week of winter break. So this time last year we were actually in D.C. visiting the museums, and I remember I think it was the National Museum of Science or something like that, they had an exhibit on pandemics and diseases. And there was a little blip there in China that talked about, SARS-CoV-2. There was some cases starting to spread. But we're definitely not taking any trips this winter break. However, we are going to be going to the Georgia Aquarium tomorrow. It's the world's largest aquarium, and my toddler likes fish. So we're going to go check it out. I have some colleagues who went there a couple weeks ago, and they said that with the social distancing and timed entry and whatnot, they felt pretty safe. So we're venturing, long-winded way of saying, Anna, we're venturing out a little bit, but still definitely trying to keep very safe.
Well, that's great to hear, Philip. Enjoy your day off tomorrow with the family and stay safe. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Anna.
Maryland's Relief Act that will bring more than $1 billion in tax relief and economic stimulus for struggling families and small businesses in the state has been passed by the House and Senate. In Gaithersburg, Bureau Chief Ace Ramirez has the details.
The General Assembly approved Maryland Governor Larry Hogan's top legislative priority, the $1 billion Relief Act of 2021. In a statement from the Maryland governor, he says the Relief Act will deliver more than $1 billion in tax relief and economic stimulus for struggling families and small businesses. It will help Marylanders barely hanging on right now as we work to bring this global pandemic to an end. Hogan went to thank the House and Senate for acting with the urgency that the crisis demands. The governor was reelected in 2018 for another 4-year term, added that he's looking forward to signing the legislation to get the much-needed relief out the door and into the pockets of those who desperately need it. The Relief Act specifically aims to help low to moderate income individuals and families who filed for earned income tax credits to possibly be expecting 2 rounds of stimulus packages of about $450 for individuals and $750 for families. Governor Hogan, one of the first governors to meet with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, commented on this recent visit to the White House, saying, "As I told President Biden, there's no reason why he and Republicans in Congress cannot forge a compromise that addresses the nation's top priorities in this crisis. I will continue urging Republicans in Congress to be willing to compromise, and I urge the President to lead by finding the common ground where we can all stand together." Hogan, only the second Republican governor to be reelected in the history of Maryland, appealed to his colleagues, saying, "At this time when so many Americans have stopped believing that democracy can work for them, we must show that Republicans and Democrats in Washington can work together to get important things done. We cannot afford another partisan process with one party dictating to the other." From Gaithersburg, Maryland, I'm Ace Ramirez. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Ace, for that report. The state of Pennsylvania announces new vaccine orders to ensure that eligible residents are inoculated against COVID-19 as soon as possible. In Swarthmore, Bureau Chief Myla Simbulan has the details. Myla?
Thanks, Anna. And good morning and good evening to all our viewers. Acting Secretary of Health Allison Beam issued an order directing vaccine providers administration of COVID-19 vaccines to ensure that Pennsylvanians are vaccinated as quickly and efficiently as possible. Take a look.
We understand how frustrating it has been for many to get vaccinated. I want Pennsylvanians to know that we have heard you and we are taking bold, decisive action. To ensure there is accountability in the administration of vaccines, effective today, I have ordered vaccine providers to administer at least 80% of the first doses of vaccine they receive within 7 days of delivery. I want to emphasize that this applies to first doses. The Commonwealth has prioritized ensuring second doses in Pennsylvania are secure once the first dose is administered.
The updated requirements for vaccine providers include, like what Bim said, at a minimum, vaccine providers must administer 80% of their first doses of vaccine received within 7 days of receipt of those doses. Vaccine providers must follow all requirements and recommendations in the COVID-19 interim vaccination plan. Vaccine providers also must adhere to the current phase of Pennsylvania's vaccine rollout as defined by the department. Vaccine providers also should give a 2-dose vaccine and shall provide the COVID-19 vaccine reminder card with a date for a return appointment for the second dose of vaccine. Vaccine providers giving a 2-dose vaccine must make every appropriate effort to ensure available appointments for second doses, including but not limited to designating appointment times for second doses or scheduling second doses at the time of first dose administration or both. Vaccine providers must have both an online and a phone-based registration system for direct appointment scheduling. Information on the systems must be made available to the department so it can be posted online. If a vaccine provider doesn't administer 80% of its first doses within 7 days of receiving those doses, the provider will still be available to receive second doses as second doses are secure. The department may grant a vaccine provider additional time to meet the 80% administration metric if the vaccine provider informs the Department of Inclement Weather or infrastructure failures outside of the provider's control, which impacted the vaccine administration. The order requires that every provider have a phone number for direct appointment scheduling. Not every individual has access to the internet, and others may find it challenging to go online to find providers in their area or navigate online appointment portals. The only exclusions to the order are vaccine providers whose provider agreement is with the Philadelphia Department of Public Health and facilities owned or operated by the federal government, including facilities operated by the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs. Anna, here in Swarthmore, it's about 34 degrees Fahrenheit or 1 degree Celsius with cloudy skies. In Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Myla Simbula and Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Myla, for that report. And 80% seems a little high compared to what's been the statistics in other states. What will happen if vaccine providers fail to comply with that order?
So, Anna, if the department reduce or temporarily suspend a vaccine provider's allocation of first doses for failure to comply, the department may reduce or temporarily suspend a vaccine provider's allocation. So that's one thing. That's from the federal government and the state law, including if they also fail to comply with the order I just mentioned, same thing will happen. And it is important to note that the order is not intended to stop second doses from being allocated to the providers at the prescribed interval. Allocations of first doses reduced or temporarily suspended under this order may be restored once a vaccine provider provides assurance of future compliance of this order to the department. Anna?
Thank you, Myla. Well, hopefully it will go well for all providers involved. Thank you for that report, and hopefully we'll get to see you a little bit later in the show. Stay safe, Myla.
You too.
More to come, updates from Las Vegas, Nevada and Houston, Texas, and time permits, our roundtable discussion on experiences from in-person learning. Stay with us. This is Eagle News America.
factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas, a 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
This is Eagle News America. I'm Anna Cui from Las Vegas. In Nevada, the Department of Health announces updates on the state's roadmap to recovery as it continues the fight against COVID-19. Eagle News correspondent Lori Jarvina with the details. Lori?
Thank you, Anna, and hello to all our viewers. Nevada continues to navigate a challenging path as we push forward in this new year. The Nevada Health Response website recently posted the Nevada Roadmap to Recovery Outline, which lays out the rules for public gatherings over the next few months. As of February 15th, up to 100 individuals, or 35% of fire code capacity, whichever is less, are allowed to gather under strict social distancing requirements. This number is anticipated to be approved for up to 250 people, or 50% of fire code capacity by March 15th. In this month of February, the 35% capacity limit applies to food and beverage establishments such as restaurants and bars, places of worship, gyms, fitness studios, and gaming and amusement activities. A 50% capacity limit applies to libraries, museums, retail stores, indoor malls, and community recreational centers. Other establishments such as spas and hair salons may also operate under strict social distancing requirements. By mid-March, all aforementioned establishments will also be allowed to operate all up to 50% capacity. While the plan gives specific details governing the state's public gatherings and events capacity limits through March, this discretion will transition to local authorities by the 1st of May. In Las Vegas, Nevada, Lori Jarvina, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Anna.
Thank you, Lori, for that encouraging report. So, what's the first place on your list to go to as you know, more businesses open back up?
It's not surprising that I still look forward to a lot of the big events, on the Strip in Las Vegas. But recently I saw a local establishment, a shabu shabu restaurant, so I have my eye on that as well. Anna?
Shabu shabu is something else, something that I still haven't tried. So that I'm sure you'll let us know about that, Lori. What else can you tell us about what's happening there in Vegas? Have you been to the Strip lately?
Yes, we drive around. We don't really walk around. We just kind of look and see what's going on. So there are definitely a lot of people out and about. So it looks promising, Anna.
Yes. Well, continue to stay safe. Tomorrow is President's Day, as Philip mentioned. Any plans for tomorrow for you and your family?
Yes, maybe drive up to see some snow, maybe. But I'm perfectly fine also not having snow right here in my doorstep.
Yes, I'm sure Thomas can't agree with you there, but it's been warm here in Las Vegas. I know we've heard some weather updates from some of you tonight, and it's been like in the 70s here in Las Vegas, right, Lori? You've been enjoying the
very
heat?
thankfully that it's been warm. I take the kids to the park. It's pretty good. Yes, Anna.
Thank you, Lori, for joining us. Stay safe. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas issues a disaster declaration as the entire state is under a winter storm warning. And in North Fort Worth, 6 are dead in a 133-car pileup. Eagle News correspondent Jane Rogel with the details.
Thank you, and howdy from the Lone Star State, which for the first time in decades will experience record-breaking temperatures this President's Day. As you can see behind me, the clouds have started to gather as winter storm warning has been issued to the entire state of Texas. An Arctic outbreak brings freezing air and low temperatures to Texas, with bone-chilling snow and ice to as far as the Gulf of Mexico. Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a disaster declaration Friday for all 254 counties to deploy state resources to help local officials in their response efforts. The Texas State Operations Center was ordered to expand its daily operations to 24 hours a day through the end of next week. Governor Abbott gave an update Saturday that the snow and ice and freezing temperatures will linger throughout the upcoming week, creating dangerous conditions, and many road closures are expected. The governor also stated he will request a federal emergency declaration from the White House to provide additional resources for communities. He stated, "Every part of the state will face freezing conditions over the coming days, and I urge all Texans to remain vigilant against the extremely harsh weather that is coming," said Governor Abbott. "Stay off the roads, take conscious steps to conserve energy, and avoid dangerous practices like bringing generators indoors or heating homes with ovens or stovetops." The icy road conditions in Texas have already claimed 6 lives during a 133-car pileup that took place Thursday in North Fort Worth, leaving dozens injured. Now let's hear what Texas residents have to say.
So you just have to adjust your driving speed on cold ice or in the snow, which we're probably going to have snow tomorrow. So you just have to drive very slowly and do not engage on your brakes. So I've lived in Texas for a little while, and the cold weather is not bad for me because I'm from Connecticut, which they had 27 inches of snow. So I'm okay, but I do understand that most Texans do not know how to drive in.
How do you feel about the snow?
Good!
Yeah?
Yeah.
Show me some excitement. Woo! Stay.
Connie Gelano. Hi, I'm Connie Gelano, Dallas, Texas. We are expecting some really crazy polar vortex weather, which is very abnormal for this time of year. It's really affected us because my kids are out of school, even though they've made changes or adjustments to virtual school. But in order to protect the safety of the staff and the admin, then they don't have school. However, the positive is that my kids living in Texas don't get to see snow that often, so I'm kind of hopeful that they'll get snow so they can play in it.
Meanwhile, I hope you're staying warm in your part of the world. In Houston, Texas, Jane Rogel, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
A group of people who has been doing their best to help us get back to normalcy, of course, is our frontliners, first responders, and essential workers. And as we always do here in the before we end the show, let us give them a much-deserved round of applause. Thank you, team, for joining us tonight. We appreciate all of our viewers for watching us tonight. That is Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Kui. We live in interesting times.